Cow days. All right. Cow days. It's cows times days per acre. That's the formula. Cow days per acre. CD over A. You know, you can do it even that way if you like algebra. All right. But as long as you say cow days per acre, you know, think back to your old, you know, 9th grade algebra. This is what we're talking about. This is a formula. Okay. So the way we figure it is, obviously, if you have 100 cows for 1 day on 1 acre, that's 100 cow days per acre. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. All right. Now, if you have obviously any combination of this, you know, if this changed to you had 2 acres, then that would be how many cow days per acre? 50. Oh, okay. And if it took 4 acres to feed those cows for a day, what would that be?
25.
Ah, good. Okay. All right, you're with me. The point is that it's really easy to determine after the fact what you have. You know, and because you know you can tell how many acres you had, and for sake of our discussion, we use 5,000 square yards for an acre. Now it's actually
4,356.
Yeah, which is a little bigger than an acre. It's but I just use 5,000. Generally speaking, I'm making paces, which are less than a yard anyway. So if I make 500 by 100, 50 by 100 paces, that's going to really be about an acre anyway. So is everybody with me? It's roughly the size of a football field without the 2 end zones. Okay? Football field is roughly 100 yards by 50 yards, or I think it's 53, something like that. So if you just think about a football field without the end zones, you get an idea of about what an acre is. All right. Now the cow component, of course, the days, that's pretty standard. I mean, days, 24 hours in a day. There's not much you can do about that. The cows, well, obviously, what happens if you have a bunch of baby calves, or a bunch of stockers, or a bunch of bulls, or a bunch of old cows? Okay. So that becomes a real tricky part, figuring the cows, because obviously a herd composed of, let's just say, 50 cows and 50 baby calves, okay, is very different than a herd of 100 full-grown cows. All right? And that is certainly very different than a herd of 100, 500, or written as 5 CWT, 5-weight stockers. Okay? So what we do is we essentially try to keep a running idea in our head at all times of every herd of herbivores, or cows that we have, and I'm going to use cows very generically here instead of saying bovines. That would be, the totally correct way to say it. We try to keep a running idea in our head of what's the cow equivalency of this herd. Obviously, a stocker calf at 500 pounds, a cow, and a baby calf are very, very different individuals with very different, consumption requirements. So, in order for us to measure apples and apples and oranges, we convert everything to what we call cow equivalents. Okay, cow equivalents. Now, so right now, I can tell you that here at Polyface, our herd is 60 cow equivalents. Now there's about 74 out there, but they're all big animals here right now. They're all finishers, okay? And finishers are very close to a full cow. So those 72 or 3 or whatever we have here are 60 cow equivalents, okay?
I'm sorry. There are 70 something, and they're all big, so wouldn't they be more?
They're not as big as a cow,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
okay?
Gotcha.
But they're almost as
But
big
they're
as a
almost
cow,
big, gotcha.
okay? And they're certainly not as big or not eating as much as a lactating cow, okay? So this is by guess and by golly, but you ballpark,
Sure.
okay? So the 190 we have over at the Mitchell farm, I'm working on those as about 130 cow equivalents, 140 cow equivalents. So right now, I'm working with about 75 to 80 cow day grass over there, okay? So I'm giving them about 1.6 acres a day. I'll get into that, I'm going fast, so I'll bring it back up to speed. My point is, and Ben over at
Great.
Greenmont, thank you, has 230, and he's working, and he's got a bunch of baby calves over there. So he's working on a premise of about 180 cow equivalents. Out at Buxton, we have 300 stockers. There's no cows and no calves. They're all 300 stockers, and we're calling that herd 200 cow equivalents. Okay? The point is that you can ask me at any time how many cow equivalents are in these different herds, and this is the way we think. I'm trying to get to the point where that this is not, what I'm doing right here is not just an academic exercise. This isn't just, let's talk about academics. This is how we actually think, how Dan and I actually think about a herd. We don't just look out at a herd and see a herd, we see X number of cow equivalents. We're always thinking in terms of cow equivalents because that's the basis of all of our planning, okay? Now, once you have that in mind, then how do we use it? Cleans it up. I like that. So, if you don't know how many cow days you just used, you can't use it for planning. What I mean is, so we know what the cow equivalents are of these herds. If we don't know how much we gave them yesterday, did we give them 5,000 square yards, 6,000 square yards, 7,000 square yards, or 10,000 square yards? If we don't know how much we gave them, how can you compute cow days? You can't. There's frustration with everybody who comes through the Polyface program. Go out and start farming. Well, how much did you give them yesterday? Oh, I don't know. I just put the fence out about where I thought it ought to be. No! Okay? If you just put the fence out, look, if you can't tell me how many square yards did you give them yesterday, then you can't tell me the cow days. Now you might be able to tell me the cow equivalents. Yeah, I've got 100 cow equivalents in this herd. And I gave them one day. But if you don't know whether you gave them 5,000 square yards, 7,000 square yards, or 9,000 square yards, we can't figure cow days, okay? And if we can't figure cow days, then we can't make adjustments.